Do you know what's stopping you from doing that one thing you've always wanted to do? You don't, because it doesn't exist. This is Josh Bauer, and no, it really doesn't exist. I'm here at the airport in Buffalo, where I work. I have some downtime, and I am recording this on my smartphone, so that's why the audio may or may not be a little bit different from what it will typically sound like. So it's December 29th at the time of me recording this, almost New Year, and I'm recording this on my smartphone. Now, growing up, I had a flip phone from the time I was about 13 to 16, 17-ish when I moved out. And during that period of time, I wasn't allowed to have a smartphone. And I always wanted a smartphone, but I just had a little flip phone. Basically, the only thing you could do with it was call people, send text messages, and it's kind of funny if you've ever had a flip phone. You kind of know all the buttons, like they have numbers on them, but then you have to press them multiple times to get letters. So like the number 2 will have A, B, and C on it. If you want the letter B, you have to press the number 2 twice. It's kind of strange. You'll never really know what that's like unless you have a flip phone. It's kind of an interesting way of texting, and it definitely takes longer, much longer, to text. There's no voice to speech, no swiping on the keyboard, all that fancy stuff you do now. And you could take pictures with it too, but the pictures didn't come out very good. And here I am now, I'm 21, so 5 years later of having had multiple different smartphones within that period of time, and I will say that smartphones are much more useful in a variety of areas. In so many areas that's basically impossible to count how many different things you can do with your smartphone. You can hear there in the background the Southwest Airlines announcements. Like I said, I'm at the airport. So over the past couple years, I'd say over the past 2 years specifically, I have downloaded apps that kind of restrict my usage, specifically of social media and things of that nature. And I was intending on doing an episode specifically on blocking social media and like filtering it out of your lifestyle to some degree for different reasons. But I'm actually kind of jumping ahead, and I'm recording this episode because today I decided that going into next year, I'm going to stop using my smartphone and buy a flip phone. Now, I have a pretty nice phone. It's a Google Pixel 7a. At the time that I bought it, it was the newest one they had, and I am a big Android person. I like Android a lot more than Apple. I like Google a lot. I am an entire Google ecosystem guy. Google Drive, Gmail. I had Google Workspace for a little while. I even have Google smart speakers in like basically every room in my house. Google controls even the colors of my lights in my kitchen, my bathroom, everywhere. So Google is very, very integrated into my lifestyle. And the only Google product I actually despise a lot and dislike quite a bit is the Chromebooks, and I think I just had a very traumatizing, shall we say, experience with them in high school, and it was for a couple reasons. Number one, all of the extensions that are forced onto there by your administration, by the school district, and then the fact that a bunch of websites are blocked. But then there was another reason, which was they were ridiculously slow. I don't know what the CPU was like in those things, but it was horrific. I don't remember what the brand was of the computer, because Google doesn't actually make the Chromebooks. They just install their software onto it or whatever. But those Chromebooks I did not like much. But that said, I am a huge Google person, and it will be more difficult than I think I've even fully come to terms with as of yet. It'll be very difficult for me to just stop using Google on my phone. And when I say Google, I don't just mean Google Search. I mean Google Tasks, which is basically my to-do list that I have used for years and years and years to keep myself not only organized but sane Google Keep, which is basically a place that I just write down all my notes. Gmail. Google Drive I don't use as much. Google Maps is an obvious one, right? Now, I've lived in Buffalo for long enough to where I know very well how to get around, and I haven't had a situation where I actually needed to use Google Maps in the past couple months, so I think I should be fine without that. Google Contacts, whenever you add a new contact, I mean, if I have a flip phone, it's going to be a completely separate thing. It's not all integrated. Google Voice, it's not going to be integrated anymore, which is the thing I currently use, so it's going to be a hassle. So why am I doing this? I suppose that I have just come to the conclusion that there are more downsides, at least for me, of having a smartphone than there are benefits. And there are a lot of benefits. I really do use it for a lot of important things. But more recently, okay, so for example, I used to just use it all the time for social media and dumb stuff. And then I would download this app that restricted all the social media and stuff, and that's good. And it worked a little bit. But at the end of the day, the temptation was still there, and my mind kept going back to wanting to click on those apps, even though I knew that when I clicked on them, they wouldn't open. Just seeing them there was a problem. And so then what I eventually did was actually redid my entire home screen and took them completely off of I uninstalled them, took them off my phone. But then, I keep finding workarounds. Like I would go on Chrome and just go to the websites. Then I found a way to block that too. And then I found another workaround where there is a browser that's part of the Messenger app, and you can go on there, and my blocking app isn't able to block that as a browser unless you block the entire app. So basically, it's like, when a hacker gets into something and then he gets kicked out and then he hacks again, and then people find another way to expel him again. It's the same way with me. It's like I'm able to successfully prevent myself from wasting time on these things, but then I kind of undo that, and I fight against myself. I'm constantly fighting against myself. And then not only do I continue to use this phone excessively for dumb shit, namely social media, up until recently, even, where I would just go on the Messenger browser and use it, even though I successfully blocked the apps themselves. Not only do I continue to do that after years of fighting myself, but also every now and then, including recently, I've gotten into this infatuation with a certain game. And as of the last couple of days, it's been this game called State.io. Before, it's been this game called Theotown, and also this is my second obsession with the game State.io. I had a first version of that as well. And when I have an obsession with a game, I spend every waking moment on it, every single piece of free time that I have, and whether or not it's actual free time or time that I really should be doing something else, but it's free time in the sense that I don't have to be at work or something, and that's basically the only thing that I define free time as. And that's not a good definition of free time, because free time should be after you have everything that you need to do, after you get everything you need to do done, not just, when you haven't committed to be somewhere at a certain time. So, sleep, the time you're supposed to be sleeping should not be free time. And I've been treating it as such. I've been treating time as free time that I should, both be working on goals that I have, and not even in context of New Year or anything like this, just goals in general, and A, and B, maintaining certain things that are already in place. So basically keeping things from falling apart. Instead of successfully keeping, I'm not saying that things are falling apart, but I'm just saying, the roof could be literally collapsing on me, and I'll just be sitting there on the couch playing my game, and it's I gotta stop this. I really gotta stop this. It's not only is it preventing me from being responsible is a good word, responsible in the sense of obligations and responsibilities, but it's hindering my ability to really make the type of progress that I could be making if this were not such a major distraction for me. And it's not just about time, it's also about headspace and where your mind's at. Because when you're thinking about a game or you're thinking about social media, your brain is just eaten by it. It's just consumed and overwhelmed. That's the only thing that's on your mind. People say put down your phone. Putting down your phone helps, but when it's in your back pocket and when it's accessible to you, and when all that stuff is accessible to you, your mind is still thinking about it. It takes more than just putting down your phone in order to really clear your mind of all the garbage that it's normally entangled up inside of. You have to really adjust your lifestyle, I think. And I can't say this for sure. I'm not talking from experience because I haven't done this, and it's been a while since I have not had a smartphone. But my expectation here is that I'm going to take a sheet of paper and write down a number of core functions that I use my smartphone for that would actually be useful. In other words, I need to think about what do I actually use my phone for, right? And then, my smartphone, what do I actually use my smartphone for? And then how many of those uses will be hindered by getting rid of my smartphone and replacing it with like a flip phone. And it might not be an actual flip phone that like folds. I think I'm going to get one of those smaller, like shorter but straight ones. I think they're, because I used to have a flip phone, but I think I'll get one that doesn't fold. But anyway, like what are the uses for a phone? So calling and texting is a pretty obvious one, and that's the one that would be replaced. Another thing I use a lot is this Money Manager app. That's only an app, it's not a website, so I would have to have some, like maybe use a tablet or something and keep that at home for that. I don't know. I could carry a notepad and pen as far as the notes go. Now the calendar, here's the thing. Theoretically, it would be very difficult to replace my calendar to have it in a format that's just as accessible as it would be on my phone. But at the same time, it's been so long since I've actually productively and consistently actually used and looked at my calendar on my phone that I don't really think I would be missing a lot anyways. Like, theoretically, that's what drives my life, but at the same time, in recent months, I really haven't been using that much, so I don't think I'd be missing a whole lot. What else? Navigation. I could put one of those old-fashioned GPSs in my car if I had to, but I don't think it's going to be an issue because, like I said, I've been in Buffalo for a while, and I don't really come across many situations in which I need to actually use a GPS anymore. I use the calculator a lot, and that's something that I can also replace with a physical dial calculator. And there's probably other stuff I'm missing, but this is just one of those exercises where you got to take out a sheet of paper and write down what actually is going to be the result of me doing this, what things am I no longer going to be able to do. And the fact is, at one point in time, I did live without a smartphone, and you know what? Humanity, I'm pretty sure, for 99% of its existence, did just fine without these. And the problem that I'm having is that I'm getting... It's about maximization of your potential, right? And I'm getting I'm probably, it depends on how you measure it, right? I would say somewhere between 5% and 15% as productive as I could be if I really had myself under control, if I had certain routines down. Most importantly, if I had my brain focusing on the right things, and if I had my brain thinking about the things I want to. And it's not even just about action all the time. You hear about action, and it is a lot about action. Action's very important, doing the right things. But I think it's a lot about headspace too. What are you thinking about? When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Apparently for 90% of people, including myself pretty frequently, your inclination is to check your phone and see if you have any text messages, or for some people, like Facebook notifications. That went away a long time ago for me. Thankfully, TikTok went along. went away a long time ago as well. Of the many things that I struggle with in terms of distractions, that's no longer one of them. But yeah, like I was saying, it's about headspace. I mean, what are you thinking about? What are you thinking about when you have free time? And if you're staring at your phone passively and not thinking about anything, just letting information flow in one ear and out the other, or right into your eyes, right into your brain, you're not processing it, you're not analyzing anything 90% of the case. You might be like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting, and that's about it. Really, it's just a form of brain atrophy. But not only that, if you're thinking about things passively, like you're just soaking in information, or I should say you're not thinking, you're just soaking in information, and you're just passively, existing. There is no room for imagination or creativity. And I don't mean this in like a fun sense. I mean it in a productive sense. You have no mental energy allocated to the activity of thinking about new ideas, or thinking about things that you could do, or things that you should do, or things you should focus on more. Honestly, what it is it's advertisers, and it's what you would call social media influencers, and then also just random people that you don't even care about, all three of which are dictating what you think about and what you see throughout the day, which, if you think about that, that's just so messed up that it sounds ridiculous. But I have a lot of downtime here at this job, because we send, when the planes come in, we take care of them and we send them back out. But I work for Frontier, and it's one of the less popular flights here at this airport. There's not as many flights for Frontier as there are for some other ones. And so there's a couple, sometimes like 1 or 2 hours in between each flight, and we're still paid for it, but we're not really doing anything. And some of my coworkers just sit there on their phone and just scroll TikTok for 2 hours straight. And it just makes, now I'm not much better now. I don't do that anymore. I'm not into TikTok anymore. I cut that off in 2020, and I never went back. But I'm just as bad in some other respects. But that said, with TikTok specifically, there's no way after that 2 hours you learned a damn thing, or you feel any better about yourself, or you have any new ideas. If out of those maybe 200, or let's say each one's 15 seconds each, 800, if out of those 800 TikToks that you watched in that 2 hours, even if you came across 12 of them that actually taught you something new that you can practically implement into your life, what are the chances that you're going to remember it by the time you put your phone down? Basically zero, unless you write it down. And I've done stuff like that. I've written stuff down that I thought might be, hey, look into this later. So there's a little bit of educational value to some degree, but the question is it more educational value than if you take your brain and just put it to work thinking to itself? And maybe my brain works I know some people apparently have internal dialogues and some people don't. I just learned that recently, so maybe there's differences there in terms of someone's ability to reflect just within themselves and think about things. I don't know, but I'm not trying to diagnose anybody else or extrapolate what I assume to be the case for me onto anyone else. All I'm talking about here is myself, and I know that for myself. I'm spending way too much time and mental energy, quite frankly, on garbage. And here's the thing that I dislike most about this. It's not actually the content that is, in those videos or whatever. It's the idea that you are telling your brain not to think anymore, And I used to listen to podcasts when I would go out for a walk. For a little while when it was nicer, now it's winter, but when it was nicer in the summer and the fall, I would walk around the block and I would listen to podcasts while I did so. And then eventually I told myself, you know what? Why don't you just leave the earphones at home and just let your brain think while you walk? And I've noticed that by the time I get home, I'm either more motivated or I thought about something in a different way, or maybe I unintentionally ended up making a decision that I didn't even intend to make just while walking. I really think you should let your brain loose and let it do its own thing without being told what to think, without having information pumped into your head like a water hose. I think that in moderation there are certain types of information that are good to absorb and that I will continue to absorb. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to really limit my information intake exclusively to books and podcasts. Videos, unless there's a specific, unless there's a debate or a specific interview or something that I want to watch, unless I and years ago I actually did this. I have this extension on YouTube where you don't see any recommendations when you go to youtube.com on my computer. What you see is a complete black screen with a search bar on the top, and when you type in the video you're looking for, it has the search results and no recommended videos on the side. When the video's over, there's none of those, that grid doesn't pop up with all those 9 watch this next videos. It's just you can replay or you can close it out. I love that extension. I forget what it's called. I did that years ago too. I've done all sorts of stuff like this, but I'm going to keep doing that sort of thing with YouTube. Like if there's a specific video in mind that I want to watch, I'll go in and I'll look it up and I'll watch that video specifically, but it's not an entertainment thing for me anymore. I haven't really watched TV in a while, but there are definitely some TV shows that I haven't finished yet, and some of them are because they haven't finished producing them. Yellowstone and The Rookie are 2 cases of that. You know what? Suits. I don't know if they're all done with that yet, but those are 3 that I haven't finished yet. And I like TV shows, and I'll probably still continue to watch them a little bit. But that's different than just if you watched one TV show a night or something. You could argue that kind of falls under the umbrella of the type of thing that I'm kind of arguing against in this episode here, but at the same time, I'm not really going so far as to eliminate that as well. But books and podcasts, and even then, I'm really going to try to allow myself a lot more time just within my own head, and it's so hard to do when you have a phone in your back pocket, because it's so easy for you to just give yourself instant entertainment. And even in my case, where I don't have the social media as easily accessible to me, I'll still find a way to, whether it's a news app or just something dumb like Google Earth or Flight Radar or ATC radio or something where I can basically allow my brain to do nothing. Or more recently, like the games I was talking about. And it's like, this is just not what I want to do. I have so many things in real life, like outside of a screen, that I actually want to get done. And my brain is handcuffed and unable to do any of them, or to think about any of them, to think about steps that I need to take, to think about when I'm going to take those steps, or exactly how I should do it. It inhibits my progress in so many different areas and in so many different ways. And I feel like I am the true definition of a hamster on a hamster wheel right now, right? It's like a rat race. And I really, really do think that the only way to opt out of this rat race is to limit the amount of, I don't want to say artificial, but the amount of information that you're exposed to that's involuntary, the amount of involuntary information you're exposed to. And again, for me, it's not even as much about the content itself, so much as the fact that I am attempting to cure or treat boredom with instant gratification, specifically instant entertainment, instant information. And then when I go and look at information, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to my brain what type of information it is. It entertains me, and so I'm content with it. And that, it might be good or useful information, or it might just be nonsense, and it doesn't make a difference to my brain, because my brain is being entertained. So it's like, okay, cool. And then 2 hours later, that's 2 hours of my life that I'm never going to get back, and I don't remember what I just saw. All I know was that I wasn't bored, and you have to ask, okay, was that really worth it? You know, I really don't think it is, and I want to switch things up a little bit. I'm not going to sell my phone or anything. What I'm probably going to do is, I'm not going to be able to keep it in my apartment because I already know the level of self-restraint that I have, and it's not very good. So I'll probably wrap some things up. You know, I have a SIM card in this phone. I'll probably make sure I buy a flip phone that's got a SIM card holder. Swap out my SIM card. Not a whole lot of people that are important for me to make sure they know about my new number, because it's a Google Voice number. The current phone number I have that everyone uses, Google Voice number, so I'll still be able to use that on my desktop. Phone number's not going to change. I'll just take my SIM card, which is a different number that I don't really use, and I'll just have to use that more often for the people that I communicate with on a regular basis. I'll have to take this phone, I don't know, import the contacts out of it somehow. I'm sure there's a way to do it, and if not, I'll just transfer over the important ones manually. And I'll get all the notes off it that are... then again, like a lot of this stuff, it's synced to the cloud. I'll be able to access from my computer. So not really a whole lot of wrapping up I need to do on this phone, but I'll probably just shut it down and put it in my storage unit. Lock it somewhere where it's a little like bottom tote and stack 4 totes on top of it or something. That way it's a little bit harder for me. Like I'm only gonna go to my storage unit, like drive there, open the door, unstack all these totes if I actually have a good reason to. And before I lock this phone up, I'm going to try to make sure all my bases are covered to where there should be nothing that I actually need to recover from this, because it's all either transferred to my desktop or whatever, or it's backed up in the cloud. But I'm not getting rid of this phone, and I might, I might decide to undo this decision and go back to using a smartphone again, but here's the deal. I really think that this is a decision I'm going to make and a new change I'm going to implement. I think it's something I'm not going to go back from, because I think that my life is going to improve so much that I'm never going to want to go back, and that's what I'm hoping for to happen. Because, and it's not just lack of productivity, it's so many different things. Even just sleep, lack of sleep, lack of putting more attention into buying food that I actually like, putting attention into going new places, putting attention into anything. Like your quality of life is directly correlated with how much effort you put into improving said quality of life. And when your effort is all when it's all taken, when all your effort is taken, when all your attention, more accurately, is taken by useless information that's just entertaining you on a nonstop basis, it takes away any remaining attention. When you don't have attention to allocate towards something, the chances of you putting any mental effort into something that you don't have the attention bandwidth for is basically zero. And so when I'm not putting effort into improving my quality of life in all these ways, sleep, productivity, a bunch of other stuff, then guess what? Your life is just gonna suffer until you make a change or do what most people do and just ignore it and pretend it's not a problem. And it's not a huge problem. I'm surviving, and I'm in a lot of ways I would consider my life to be pretty good. But like I said, 5 to 15%, that 5% to 15% of my potential in terms of productivity, in terms of what my life could look like, and that number is just driving me crazy, because that's a ridiculously low number. And so, a lot of that, maybe I'm just lazy by nature. I don't know if that's the case. I don't think it is. I know that sometimes I'm very motivated, other times I'm not motivated at all. I don't know all the factors that go into that, and I definitely try as much as I can to figure out what they are. But I do think this is going to make a huge difference. In fact, and the reason I'm recording this right now, this recording comes like maybe 4 hours after I made this decision. I really never even thought about this. Like, I never would have imagined myself in the past couple of years coming to this decision. This is not something that was just a piling up. Like, I've wanted to do it for a while, and I'm finally doing it. Like, this is something I snapped my fingers just a couple hours ago and said, this is ridiculous. And you know, I've tried all these apps that restrict stuff, and it works a little bit, but at the end of the day, there's still this entertainment device in the back of my pocket that's entertaining my brain and distracting my brain. And I want to see what my life is like when it's just me without that. I want to see what my brain is like when it's not hooked up to something that's completely draining my attention 24/7. And this decision kind of came out of nowhere. And after I finish this recording, I'm probably gonna, you know, just order like as soon as I'm done with this, I'm just gonna go on Amazon. I'll probably order one tonight. Probably order a phone tonight. Make sure it's got a SIM card slot that matches the SIM card I currently have. And as soon as I get that phone, I mean, today's the 29th, so it'll probably be here January 4th, January 5th-ish, probably. By the way, I have my next road test on January 3rd, hoping to pass that. This will be my 4th road test. I've only failed twice. The 3rd time I couldn't go out because the truck didn't work. Anyway, hopefully, yeah, as soon as I get that flip phone, I'm going to start archiving everything on this phone, making sure all my photos are backed up, all that stuff, and then I'm going to metaphorically put it in the ice and hibernate it. And, you know, maybe 6 months from now, I am kind of detoxed, you could say, and I'm able to take this and start using just a couple apps. But I don't know. I don't think that's the case. I really do think that my life will improve to such an extent that I will decide not to go back. And, you know, there are a lot of benefits of having a smartphone. You know, I used to fly drones and stuff more often than I do now. And, you know, there's a DJI app. You can take your phone and use it as the controller and everything. Like, there's a lot of legitimate useful purposes. I mean, even for work, I use it to notify me automatically when a plane is about to get here. There's so many good uses for a smartphone, and I don't think that any of them make having one worth me being completely drained of attention. So yeah, that's just a episode I decided to record here. Thought it might be relevant and interesting, and it's certainly a big decision that I am documenting just as I made the decision, and it's going to affect my life positively or negatively or both, definitely in a major way going forward. I mean, this isn't something I'm thinking about doing. This is something I'm going to do. So it's just a matter of, is it in 2 days or 4 days, like that type of time. Like, it's something I'm gonna do. And yeah, a lot's gonna change, and I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but I can't wait to find out.